At any time during the process, Linda may call the call centre to query the status of her complaint. Sham, our call centre operator, can very easily find Linda's record, then find the complaints that was made, drill into that complaint to see the details she captured earlier, as well as all the complaint information that's being handled and generated by our customer service team, all of the documents, the KPI status, all of the comments, records, and very easily through the case stage progress, understanding where in the life cycle of the complaint review process we're currently at. This gives Sham all the information she needs in order to provide Linda with the most up-to-date status. The next person involved in this scenario is David. David is the customer services team lead. It is David's responsibility to review the compensation decision that was made by Jonathan in the previous step. David can come into the complaints handling site, see all of the open complaints, see the real-time business information or performance information. He can very easily see that the complaint that he's dealing with is currently in an amber status. He can drill into that complaint, taking him into the complaint site. David can very easily understand everything that's taken place previously during the complaint review. He can see all of the documents, he can see all of the correspondence, any records. He can drill into the business audit. The business audit is going to provide him a step-by-step overview of each step or each scenario that took place during this complaint review. Everything from the scanning of documents into the site, the change in the KPI, the movement from one stage to the next. With all of this information to hand, David can very easily make an informed decision about whether the compensation claim, the decision made by Jonathan, was the correct one. If necessary, David can, furthermore, perform various actions through the case actions, whether that's generating another customer letter, perhaps generating an audit, a business audit, capturing the details that we saw previously as a record into this case site. Alternatively, he can just simply access his task, which is the compensation review task. In opening this task, David can see all of the business information, all the information about this particular customer, as we've seen Linda, taken directly from CRM, the information that was captured previously by Jonathan and by Sham when she originally captured the complaint, and the details that were provided by Jonathan and his decision. With all of this information to hand, David can very easily make this informed decision and say, okay, we're happy to provide the refund for the full cost of that particular product and provide any comments as he receives fit. As part of the process, David can accept the compensation claim, the decision made previously by Jonathan, or he can actually request to rework the compensation, at which point it would send the task back to Jonathan and enable Jonathan to conduct a further investigation and review his decision. In this particular case, David is going to accept the compensation claim and thereby complete this particular task, and as a result, actually close out this particular complaint review stage. With David making the decision to accept the compensation, the process proceeds to close out the complaint. You can see now that the actual complaint site has changed significantly. The case actions have changed based upon the status of this complaint now being closed. Obviously, now that the complaint is closed, we only want to control certain aspects of these actions. So, starting perhaps a continuous improvement process, or perhaps just updating some of the fundamentals about the complaint are available, or contacting the customer directly. A lot of the other actions that were available previously have now been discontinued. We can also see that as part of the closeout process, we generated a business audit to capture every step that took place during the execution and review and resolution of this particular complaint. We also generated a resolution letter that was sent out to the customer detailing the results of the complaint review process. These have both been declared as records. We've also completed out the necessary stages of our complaint lifecycle. We went from complaint review, compensation review, and finally the resolution being sent to the customer. If we return to Sham as our call center operator has access to all of this information as well. She can, via Linda's customer record and through the complaints area, see the exact same information. She can also see that the complaint status is now resolved. She can see the date on which it was resolved, and if necessary, see all the same information that the customer service team has been working on, the same records and the same documents. During this scenario, we've seen how the customer service team, as well as the call center operators, are both given an easy-to-use, unified experience, giving them all the information and all the actions they can perform in one easy-to-use environment. It's also important to provide management with the same level of easy access to information that they require. This is done through a number of different reports that they can either access directly through, perhaps the complaints management portal we see here, or reports that they can create themselves through Excel. First of all, let's have a look at some of the reports provided through the complaints management site. We can see, obviously, as we've seen a number of times before, the trend information about how we're performing in resolving cases over the last period, over the last week or so. We can also see individual user performance. So we can see how the individual teams, how the individual users within our customer service team are performing. So we can see here, on average, David and Jonathan are taking the most amount of time, while Dennis is actually performing quite well. We can also see how long it's taking for different decisions to be made, and the number of tasks that are being completed. So you can see here that David and Dennis are actually doing a lot less work than perhaps Jonathan is. We can actually have a look at perhaps the general performance of the team as a whole, how the individual stages are being actually performed, and how they're meeting certain key performance measurements. So we can see here, compensation review, complaint review, and resolution review are the key steps where individual members of the customer services team are involved. At this point, we have an expected duration of 2 days for each of those. And we can see very clearly in real time that all of these steps are well within their expected duration. Compensation review, however, is currently taking about half the time that both complaint review and resolution review are taking. This real-time information can be very valuable to management when determining perhaps resourcing for the team, or understanding perhaps bottlenecks in their process. These reports, and others like them, provide an excellent insight into how your team or business is performing in real time. At other times, it may be more desirable for management to conduct a more detailed analysis of the raw data, or create their own charts and reports for management meetings. With our out-of-the-box integration with Excel via the Open Data Protocol, or OData, it requires only a few clicks of the mouse to take your business information, in our scenario, our complaint information, directly into Excel, so that we can start building our own pivot tables and charts. This spreadsheet is providing me with a detailed analysis of all of my complaints broken down by service, and broken down also by status. So I can see of all the complaints, 25 we've had in total, we can see that at the moment we have only 2 that are under review, while the remaining 23 we can see have all been resolved. If we go ahead and actually refresh this data, we can pull down the latest information, including our most recent complaint from Linda. Here is all our raw information, taken directly into Excel from our data source. If we refresh this, it will now update to 26 complaints, including Linda's. If now we return to our spreadsheet and refresh it, we'll get the latest information and conduct our analysis accordingly. So you can see here we now have 24 resolved cases, and if we add those that are currently under review, 26, and we can see how they're broken down by our individual services. If necessary, we can further refine this by severity. This particular spreadsheet was built simply by taking the existing information, our line of business information, our complaint information, directly into Excel, and then building our own pivot tables and charts on top of. This concludes our complaints handling demonstration scenario. If you'd like any further information, please don't hesitate to contact me on the details you currently see on screen. Thank you for your time.